Okay, so welcome back, everybody. Our next speaker is the wonderful Cathrin Blickling from Australia. She is a director and writer, an entrepreneur extraordinaire. She has several different companies: Wonderland Interactive Storytelling. She's just started Wonderland TV. She's creating a feature film called The Jailer Within. And who knows what else? So welcome today, Cathrin.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
No problem at all. It's great to have you here. So the first question that I've got for you is, what are the challenges that you see in the current education system?
It's a really good question. One of the biggest challenges that I see, and it's mainly due to the fact that I actually feel a lot of teachers are overwhelmed and there's a lot of responsibility that teachers have. So it's really hard to also then individually go in on every single student. And with that, I mean the amount of paperwork they have to do. There are responsibilities now of, making sure the criteria is met, but then also making sure that each child or student is okay. I think that is one of the hardest things. And it's also one of the reasons I stepped away from teaching officially at schools, to be honest. It's because I was like, this system was overwhelming for me and I felt like I couldn't thrive in it. So I don't know how other teachers do it as well and manage to get the best out of each student. And so that's one of the biggest challenges that I see. One of the things, though, that I think education system needs to change or needs to include a lot more, and it's starting to happen, there's a bit of buzz happening, is the inclusion of SEL, so social and emotional learning, that and communication skills. I think they're the two things that every education system needs to include from 3-year-olds, from the little ones to year 12 students. And really, every day should start with half an hour of SEL and communication skills development. And it's because, I'll later go into this, but personally, I think that if you are aware of yourself, if you know how to work through emotions, if you know how to interact with other people, if you know how to communicate, then suddenly there are so many doors open to you in life. And also, you as a person will have more opportunities, but will also be happier and feel better. And I think our workplaces would also benefit from it. So, yes, I actually think that needs to be put into the curriculum and with every student.
I totally agree, because those are the things that are life skills, aren't they? Those are the things that feed into who we are as people, able to express and be ourselves and to get along with other people as well. So, yeah, fantastic for bringing that out there. So, we're going to be talking about the arts because that's something that's really close to your heart.
Yes.
People often romanticize the arts. However, choosing a career like yours isn't always easy, right?
No, definitely not. Look, I wouldn't trade it. And I'm going to list a whole lot of things that make it difficult as well. But I absolutely love being in the arts. No, look, it's not always glamour. It's not always shine. Yes, we've got our red carpet events. Yes, we've got, it's exciting. And yeah, it's personal, it's deep. However, going into the field, if you are interested of going into the arts, be prepared to be juggling a lot. You're constantly going to be juggling getting an income and pushing your career forward. You're going to be doing hours of free work. And look, other areas might have this as well, but especially in the arts, this is known. So it's just part of it. That's a really big one. Now, also, it's like any entrepreneurial project, you need to find momentum to push projects forward. You need to be able to work through blockages that will be presented. You need to be able to take risks. You need to be able to be resilient, really, to not be put off by no and rejection. And that's some of the hardest things in the arts, is finding that, and then finding a balance as well. Because everyone says, oh, but you love what you do. Yes, but loving what I do doesn't pay my electricity bills. So, it's constantly finding that, that balance, really. And then, I mean, as a director and a writer, which is what I am now, my background is acting, but as a director and a writer, there is no clear pathway of what's the best way forward. So unlike other jobs where you've got a ladder where that's the way that you can promote yourself, you can work up, you don't have that. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is finding your way, because there is no one way. And but it's also one of the joys that I love, that you're constantly working on your projects and moving them forward. Yeah.
You've described there a journey that is full of ups and downs, and that's the same for many, many people, isn't it? And but as you're identifying, particularly in that area of the arts, where people look at you and you think, well, you can be so creative, and isn't it wonderful? You do love what you do, but you're identifying those downs that come with it as well. So,
yeah.
When did you know that you were going to be a director and a writer?
Right. Well, it actually came a bit later on in my life. So in year 11 and 12, it was between acting and law. And I was very close to going down the law path. And I think what made me stop was the fact that I suddenly went, I don't want to live a life asking what if. And that was a big turning point in my life, going, actually, no, let's follow a dream. Let's go. Let's take the risk and see where it takes me, because I don't ever want to look back and ask, what if I had gone down that path? And so that's when I decided to do acting and put law to the side. And I don't regret it. I'm so happy with it. But that was one of the big things. And then I went through acting school. I then moved to London and also did Meisner there. And it was doing all the acting. And I think especially when I co-produced, co-wrote and acted in my first short film, that I really started to notice the frustration I was having with a lot of directors. Now, when a director is great as an actor, it's an absolute joy to perform. It's an absolute joy to work, because it's creative and your opinion counts and you can get so much out of it. But a lot of directors don't know how to work with actors, firstly, especially when you're starting off. And secondly, the amount of work that was being put on, where I was just frustrated at the quality of the work, really got to me. And I quickly noticed that before I, complain anymore about these people, I better try this myself. And so I did. And so with that decision, I actually moved to Vienna, because I thought London's a bit difficult to balance this whole act of working and having enough money to push my own projects forward. And so I started a theatre company in Vienna, which now looking back, I don't know why I thought about it, but somehow it worked. I got it happening. And I wrote, directed, and produced my first short film back in London then. And I made a promise to myself where I said, if at any stage with this film, I actually want to be in front of the camera instead of behind the camera, I know that directing's not my pathway. But I loved it. I haven't looked back once. I mean, funnily enough, with the Wonderland TV company that you mentioned, Cathy, I am actually now back in front of the camera, but it's behind the camera that I love it. It's the whole process, the story, working, collaborating with other people, so other heads of departments, to create these stories, to bring them to life. That's what I love. And so, yes, it's director, writer. That's what I'm pushing. That's what I'm living. I am producing on the side a bit as well, because I realize that's the fastest way of getting my own projects up and running. And I don't regret it at all. And I think that's a big thing, is that one of the biggest things for me is to always check in each year. What is it that I want to be doing? And by checking in, I can realign myself and go, right, am I still wanting the same thing, or has that changed? And that's totally okay if it has changed. And then am I on the right pathway? And I've done that a few times. And that's probably the realization that I had of moving from acting into writing and directing.
Wow, that's so interesting. And one of the things that I do as well is to touch base with myself again. Is this what I'm wanting to be doing? the really strong thread that I can hear through what you're talking about there goes back to what you talked about at the beginning, which is the importance of knowing yourself and being able to communicate with others, because the frustrations that you're experiencing as you've had the different experiences that you've had have been where other people haven't been able to communicate.
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Gosh, there's skills for yourself and for others for working with people for solving problems. 100%. And only if you know yourself can you actually move forward and can you live the life that you want to live.
Mm. And it's also there's been a journey in that, isn't there? You're a writer and a director now, but it started with doing the acting, walking the boards and so on, and then growing into that next role.
100%. I think, look, everyone has their journey. And I said before that directing, writing doesn't have the normal steps forward, which makes it very difficult. But you create your own journey, and that's what's beautiful. And look, there really is something to the whole saying with it's about the journey, not the end goal. I mean, I'm all about having my clear goals and going for it, but it really is about the journey. I'm loving the life. Yes, my dreams are up there. Of course, I want to get an Oscar. I want to, be making all of my feature films that I'm writing, not have to worry about finding finances. But it is the journey that matters as well. And I do love it. And that's one of the keys of being able to live your dream and going for it and staying resilient.
Yeah, and that entrepreneurial journey is not an easy journey. And there must be times when you've gone, I wish I had a secure job with the money coming in each week. So tell us about that.
Oh, definitely. And look, it's actually an interesting question that you've brought up, or a point that you've raised. I actually have 3 brothers, okay, and we are all in completely different fields. However, all of us have got our own companies and are living an entrepreneurial life. And look, it's the blessing and the curse that I say my parents gave to us because they're already living like that. But it's really interesting to see the different journeys that we've had. So my oldest brother, he's a biochemist. My older brother, then, he's a cellist, so he's also in the arts, which is also challenging. And then my younger brother, he studied aerospace avionics and now also has his own technology company and travel company. The interesting thing about this is that while I've been saying, yes, in the arts it's difficult and you're constantly juggling, getting paid income, all 4 of us have had our journey. All 4 of us have had our challenges. And the lovely thing is that we are able to talk to each other and help each other out because we've all got different skill sets as well, which is really good to know what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses and can we support each other. But what's been really interesting, so while yes, my younger brother, being in technology, having studied aerospace avionics, went from having secure jobs and being able to save a lot of money, that he's then been able to put into his company, he still has the struggles of where do I get the next income? Where do I get the next things now that I've started my own company? And while we're struggling with the same things, his bills as a result are a lot higher because of the way that he's setting up his companies. Same with my oldest brother, who's a biochemist, who has his own headhunting company. Same thing again, went from secure jobs, went from good income to now having to juggle it too. And what all 4 of us have in common is that we have to be resilient, that we have to, find a way to not give up, to creatively, constantly think of new solutions, to not take always no as an answer, to be daring, to take risks, to ask and to push things forward. So no matter what area you're in, you will, if you follow your dream of creating your own projects, but even within a company, if you're following your dreams, these are skills that will bring you forward. And those challenges really go to everybody. You'll just see them in different areas, in different ways or to different degrees. But the skill sets that you have to have as a person, it doesn't matter what area you're in.
Absolutely. And again, you've got that knowledge of your strengths. Yes. And being able to look for other people with their strengths and being able to support each other to take that journey together. Yeah, and that's very much been part of my journey as well.
Yeah.
So you've been a teacher.
No, I haven't. I've done a lot of teaching, but so yes, I teach a lot, but no, I'm not a school teacher. I have not been qualified, but I've worked alongside teachers in the classroom a lot, using my skills to work with students and give them a different experience, especially using the acting skills.
Yeah. Okay. So within that, you are teaching and working alongside teachers. So what would you tell a student if they came to you and they said they really wanted to study acting? What would you tell them?
It's funny. I had this discussion with another colleague who's also acting, and our responses are so completely different. He said, and there's, yeah, he's valid as well. He said, run away from it. And if there's anything else in the whole entire world that would also make you happy, do that. Now, if you discover that there's nothing else that would make you happy, then you know acting is your career. So that's what he says. My response is very different. Mine is, if that's what you want to do, go for it. Definitely go for it, because you will learn skills that will change your life and also influence any area of work that you might end up doing. It doesn't mean that you'll become an actor, but the skills that you learn are so important. So definitely go for it. And the other thing is, I will stick to my philosophy of don't ever live a life, what if? If you want to do something, you need to go and do it, because you don't want to have regrets. And there's only one way of finding out, right? Doing it.
Yes, absolutely. And so that means not listening to those voices of the people around you who say you can never make a career out of that. You'll never earn any money. You better go and find a steady job. Actually, it is knowing that what if, isn't it, that can carry you through.
Definitely. I'm a big believer of the hardest thing is that as a society, we've got this idea of how we should be living life. We've got this idea, this construction of, and look, there's some valid point to it as well. It comes from people having suffered. It comes from, having to know how to put a meal on the table. And I'm living in a first world country, so the opportunities that I have are very different, and therefore my dreams are very different to if I was in a situation where I have gone hungry, or, where safety is important. So that's very important to know as well. We are in a privileged situation where we do have the possibility of following our dream, but you need to, as a result, learn, as you said, how to block those voices out, how to block the construction that society's built around us and the expectations away, because it's not a normal life that you will live, that you will lead. And you will have people that you see, and I think this is one of the hardest things that any entrepreneur at the start will say is, you will see people climbing ladders. You will see people who have got these huge paychecks coming in, who will be able to go on holidays, and yet you are going, right, how do I pay this, or how do I juggle this? What is my next step forward? You'll be making certain sacrifices in certain parts of your life. However, if this is what you want to do, it is so worth it. And you can only fight against that if you know who you are and if you know what you want. And that's why we're back to that, how do we block those voices out? And it's by knowing who you are.
Absolutely. And so that leads really well into the next question that I've got for you, because you've talked about some of these things. Yeah. But in a nutshell, what are the skill sets that you believe are important to acquire throughout school to enable you to follow your dreams?
The hardest thing is, and I think we've had this discussion before, Cathy, is that I'm very fortunate with my parents, who themselves are quite entrepreneurial. So my parents have always encouraged us to think big. They have encouraged us to know what our strengths are and work at that, rather than going, oh, these are your weaknesses, and pushing us down. They have encouraged us to do personal development, to work at the person of who we are. So as a result, and especially because I was a child with a huge imagination, ridiculous imagination, and I sometimes wonder how my parents juggled this, because, blowing that line in between reality and, and imagination, I was very good at pushing it. But so I had parents there who were very supportive and giving me a lot of freedom and room to flourish. Now, with a school that was very, very structured, and I love my school, and I'm actually very grateful for the schooling that I had, but only because it counterbalanced so well. So, saying what skills do we need to, get from school is very hard depending on your home life. If you've got a home where it's very structured anyway, and it's very much about, this is the way that society tells you to live, this is what we want you to do, let's tick those boxes, then you need a school which really encourages you to take risks, which encourages you to be daring, which encourages you to be resilient. And whereas, I think a lot of schools, and especially what my school did, is it taught me these are systems. If you want to thrive, you need to work within the system, which was fantastic in regards to teaching me that I have to sometimes pull myself in. It taught me how to follow criteria, and it gave me skills so that I can then support myself as an artist. I was able to tutor while I was over in Vienna. I was able to set up my own business and understand that. So I'm not sure if I'm answering this correctly for you, or if you're getting much of an answer here, but I really think that the family and the schools really need to work together to make sure that a student leaves knowing that doing personal development work on yourself is a lifelong journey, but it's vital. Knowing how to keep a balanced life, know as much as you can. Of course, sometimes it changes, but knowing how to be resilient and have such a trust in yourself that a blockage or a no will not stop you, so that you keep going, knowing how to communicate, knowing how to also then work with other people, find creative solutions. Those are skills that are so vital, and that really schools should also be focusing on as well as at home, I think.
So what I'm hearing in there is that balance between the people skills, the personal development, that lifelong learning about people, and the systems. How do we create the systems to be able to support this? And that's true no matter whether we're in business or whether we're in life or in any sort of work.
Mm.
The other thing that I think has been really important for people that hasn't necessarily been taught in school is that financial knowledge, the financial understanding, to be able to pay our bills, to be able to budget, to be able to make those decisions around money.
100%. And, I think I was thinking about this before going, what is it, for instance, that I would love to have different at schools as well? And I mean, this is the stage that I'm at my life now. And I already said to my dad, I wish he had drilled this into me, because why didn't you teach me? And he said, you had no interest. It's the life of a business, like how businesses work, how businesses are set up. Now, I know that at our school there was business studies. I had no interest in it whatsoever. So that's sort of one of those regrets. But it's so important that people do understand this, because that is either if you're being employed or if you're starting your own business, it's a really good knowledge to have, to understand how the systems work. And as you said, also the whole financial, knowing how to pay bills, knowing how to juggle everything, very important, because that becomes your life.
Absolutely. Okay, so coming into the final couple of questions here, what tips would you give to people who want to follow their dreams?
I think this is the theme, right? Do a lot of personal development work on yourself. And I don't mean this as anything negative. This is life. Like, continue to work on who you are as a person. So definitely that. The next thing is really be clear of what it is that your dream is. And as I said before, check in each year. Really check in of going, what is my dream? Is it still the same one? Am I on the right path? And because within that, you can have your long-term goals and then your short-term goals. So definitely, do that. And then the balance. I think, look, I've seen some amazing, amazing, talented actors and other artists who started off in the field with me and have left. And I always ask myself, why is it that they have left? Why is it that they've gone into another area? And it's not that they weren't good, because they were amazing. And in many ways, I would actually say they were more talented than I was. I looked at it, and I think the answer is that it's the balance that you have in your life. One, the self-belief and the dream. So that has really given me that drive. But two, it is try not to burn yourself out. So I have never just been with friends with only artists. I've got friends in all different areas. Yeah. One for me that's really important, but that's life as well. So I don't think, oh, if I want to make it, I have to do 24 hours just this. You don't. Try and balance it out to have time for yourself, have time with your family, with your friends. Make sure you exercise, make sure you eat well and socialize. Like that's all part of life as well. Now, at times, if I'm on set, that's not going to happen. Okay, so if then it's all film, but I make sure then afterwards that I find some time to balance that out again. So I think if you want to make it if you want to make your dream, make sure that you do find that joy in there as well and the balance. And I don't know, I like journaling as well. That sort of helps me put some stuff to the side because switching off is a hard one.
And that fits really well with the theme of the day that we're talking about today, which is around tending that fire, looking after yourself in the middle of that fire as you're following that. So, doing whatever you need to do in order to be able to keep yourself healthy. It's not just I've got to follow my dream. I've got to follow my dream, and it is knowing and being able to look after yourself, because if you are following your dream and you're not healthy, then nobody else can do it for you.
100%. And a big thing that I learned in the last, I would say this has been the journey for the last 3 years. One was also learning how to set healthy boundaries. Really big because it gives you the power to say no if you don't want to. It takes away a lot of those social structures of feeling guilty, even if you shouldn't, but that's because it's been placed in us. And it also gives you that space to make sure that you are healthy, and that you are okay. So that's one. But the next one is, and this has been quite a journey, how to stay calm in the middle of chaos. And that's a really big one and an exciting one. I read a fantastic book about this called At Home in Muddy Waters, I think it was. And it really teaches you or talks to you about trusting in the process, trusting in yourself, and not being thrown by little things or making a drama out of little things either.
Yeah, and that's part of that social and emotional learning as well, which we keep coming back to. Thank you so much for sharing your tips and tricks today for people wanting to follow their dreams, and particularly in the arts, which can be an area that is pushed down in our curriculums at the moment and in our education systems. Yeah. And you've got a last question for people, and we would love people to be able to go over into the Facebook group and to be able to write down your answers for this question. So what's your final question for people there, Catherine?
Okay, my question is, what is your dream? What is your ideal career or life without thinking of any problems on how to get there or any difficulties? But if I was to hand you your ideal job, your ideal career, what is it?
Wow. What an interesting question. I look forward to seeing all the answers that come up in that group. So, yeah. So, thank you very, very much for sharing your passion, your energy, your ideas, the importance of that social and emotional learning, and that importance of knowing yourself. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Pleasure, and thank you as well. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.